The history of cinema presents many examples of movies that became a cult classic, somehow, overnight. There are movies that cannot be remade due to their historical importance, or the actor's performance, or the way the movies are made. Simply put, those movies are too damn good to be remade, and it will be a terrible crime to try to remake them. Many generations are influenced by those creations, and as an aspiring director myself, it is interesting to watch an old movie and appreciate it not only due to its artistic representation, but also for its pop culture importance. The film I will talk about in this video is one of those movies. It is one of the most memorable movies of the 1950s American cinema, The Wild One, a film starring Marlon Brando, Lee Marvin, Mary Murphy and Robert Keefe. A film directed by László Benedek, telling the story of a small town in America in which two motorcycle clubs arrive and start to ensue chaos, disrupting the peaceful and normal life of the people who live there. The film was released all the way back in 1953, and it is based on the short story Cyclist Raid by Frank Rooney from 1951, which was also based on the real-life events from 1947 called the Hollister Riots. It is considered to be the original outlaw biker film and presents an incredible feeling and story that was a source of inspiration for many other movies, but also for the fashion of that time and the way people may interpret the concept of bikers, misfits, and outlaws in modern culture. I always wanted to watch this movie, mostly because of Marlon Brando. There was something regarding this film from the promotional pictures and posters that truly made you want to watch this film. The feeling of rebellion, the arrogant attitude of Brando on his motorcycle. Definitely the film has a certain and amazing flair that attracts the audience. And I think this is true. The film's story has an interesting take when it comes to the concept of rebellion and violence. It also presents interesting takes when it comes to the theme of freedom. There are quite a lot of layers when it comes out to its characters, because the film presents you the concept of a biker who is an outlaw, but it presents it in two distinctive ways. The film presents two motorcycle clubs, the Black Rebels, led by Johnny, who, it is true, are creating chaos around them, but I feel them more like wannabe hooligans who just want to have fun, and the club led by Chino, the Beatles, who, it seems to me, they are the ones who truly are looking to create chaos and are looking for trouble. The cinematic style of the story makes a clear difference between those two clubs in many ways, but what could be initially and clearly seen is the way the bikers are dressed. Johnny's boys are dressed in leather jackets, they are clean and they have a certain attitude they present when they are in the world. They are creating chaos, but it is somehow concealed in their own actions. Chino's boys are dressed differently, with sweaters mostly, and act wildly, no matter the circumstances. Chino's actions to tease Johnny and make him ensue in a battle, it kinda tells the viewer everything about Chino's group. They do not appear to be organized. They are creating chaos for the sake of it. Johnny's boys look more united as a group. They know how to act and when to act, even it is a chaotic thing. They are looking for Johnny's gaze and action to see if they are acting well or are doing something bad by Johnny's standards, even though Johnny lets them do whatever they want. Maybe I'm looking way too much into this concept of differentiating the clubs, but I think that the way the clubs are represented by their clothes and attitudes, it is a way for the viewer to understand their differences and their philosophies. The concept of brotherhood is shown between the clubs, or it is implied, due to their past of being a single motorcycle club once, in the moment when Johnny's guys are throwing the guy who had a conflict with Chino in jail. But I think that it is more like a fair and equal justice response to a context, rather than a close connection between the clubs. And speaking of conflict, it is a great moment and presentation of how the build-up of the conflict between the bikers and the townsfolk is created. The townsfolk truly had enough of the chaos created by the bikers, and it can be clearly seen by their response to everything that happened. But it cannot be forgotten the fact that some of the townsfolk started the conflict just by not accepting the bikers being there in their town. I'm not saying that one party is more innocent than the other, I'm just saying that the conflict was instigated somehow by those three parties in equal shares. The classical conflict between order and chaos, between law and liberty, is shown during this movie, either through the characters' actions or through the context, so in the end, this film is a little bit complicated to truly understand who the real bad guy or the good guy is. Benedek is presenting the film's story from Johnny's perspective, so we can assume he is the good guy, and we know he is a good guy by the ways of how he acts around Katie and his men. But he is also to blame because he did nothing to stop the initial chaos created by his boys into town? Probably yes. This film is morally grey on so many levels, and I like a challenging film just like this one. It makes you think a lot about its story, and you might find so many themes and concepts that enriches the film's value. I miss those kind of movies. As for the story itself, the way the context it is presented feels extremely detailed in my opinion. Sure, the story follows Johnny during this whole context, and you see his interest in Katie and all that, but what I like from many points of view regarding this film is the way the context is evolving, how the seeds of the conflict are planted right from the beginning, how the whole context escalates to a point in which, whether or not you are at fault, you will answer for everything that happened just because you are associated with them. The story of the film presents to you all the sides of the conflict in a perfect detail to understand who might create chaos or not, who might be at fault for something, how the reaction of the people will create more chaos and sadness due to their actions. The film has this classical pattern in which the boy is interested in a girl. The conflict starts to escalate to a certain point in which the boy will be judged, and then he will be saved by that girl. The structure is specific to the classical Hollywood cinema, but it works so well in this film, probably due to the way the characters are represented. The film has a lot of elements: love, conflict, chaos, a little bit of comedy, but comedy that might be considered an act of vandalism. The film is balanced well, and the beginning of the film, the monologue that tries to tell you about something, makes the viewer be ready for anything that might happen. It is a nice touch from Benedek to start the film like this, because it will keep the viewer to pay attention to anything that might happen, thus making the viewer understand all the sides of the story perfectly. Yep, this movie truly is special when it comes to development of its story, its conflict, and its characters. The film is quite popular, probably due to Marlon Brando's performance. That nonchalant, bored-like method of Brando to perform a role is felt while you watch the movie. Not in its entirety, but you can see this method somehow starting to evolve in this time of his career. If we do a simple research, we can see that The Wild One is only his 5th film, and he was already making waves with his style of acting and the way he represented himself. The way he performed his character is a thing that remains in your head after you watch the movie. The way he is such a nonchalant renegade, this mysterious guy that interferes for his brothers only when he sees an injustice, but at heart he has a soft spot, who tries to show himself as cool and tough, who tries to impress the girl, and probably this method of his to follow his interests made Brando a symbol of those years. He looked like the cool guy, and mostly, even today, you can sense this aura of renegade who defies the normality around him quite strong. His portrayal of Johnny presented the concept of the rebel, of the misfit of society, and it was an amazing performance, making the viewer feel the movie and the character. But Johnny is not the only one who told the story through his attitude and actions. Lee Marvin's Chino was made to be the fuel of the conflict, to be that sour guy who is looking for trouble. His portrayal of rebellion is totally different from Brando's elegant act. Benedek kinda made this decision to make you feel a bit of hate towards the character. Compared with the mystery and aura of Johnny, you have this loudmouth who laughs about almost everything and is always ready to jump and make trouble. Yeah, you will definitely feel something bad when it comes to Chino. The main themes of liberty and freedom are presented to side characters as well, in a way to make the viewer realize how the society is holding people stuck in a place we do not want to be. Katie is a character made in a certain pattern. The young, beautiful, innocent girl stuck in a small town for a certain reason, who is the love interest of the main character. At first sight, she's just one of those girls, nothing too interesting regarding her. But her innocence and her desire to live and to have an adventure makes her a character the viewer feels attracted to. She is not just a simple character. Benedek presents her extremely well. She may not look too interested initially in Johnny, but she starts to get more and more interested in him, and then you learn about her past and her situation in that town. If she would have been interested in some biker stuff, probably she may be more open to the boys, but she's opening her heart towards one single person, Johnny, whose mysterious attitude makes her want to rebel. For her, Johnny is like a forbidden fruit. He is the representation of freedom, a thing that she truly wants and needs in her life. Their dynamic feels specific for the 1950s American cinema, a bit like a cliché and familiar, but it is perfect for what the film wants to represent. The relationship works so well for each other due to their desires. Johnny sees her as the innocent thing that she is, that probably wants to have in his life, and Katie sees him as what he is, the help towards freedom, the one who can make her escape from her cage and her world that puts so many borders around her and her decisions. This idea of a character stuck in a certain situation expands also towards Katie's father, Sheriff Singer. His story is a bit sad if you think about it. At the beginning of the film, seeing how he deals with the chaos and problems between the townsfolk and the motorcyclists, you might say that, yeah, he is a weak cop, he is scared to interfere and probably does not care too much about his community. He might be afraid of something, who knows? But seeing how the story evolves and starting to understand how the townsfolk are and how the sheriff is also stuck and almost controlled by the people, the viewer instantly understands his situation and his actions. He does not try to be weak and not interested in the situation or to fix it fast without taking a risk. No, he tries to maintain peace in the best way he can, protecting everyone as best as he can, knowing how the townsfolk would react. It seems he tries to protect the outsiders from something that they do not know how to handle. His story is sad and it enhances Katie's story regarding her being stuck in that small town and trying to get away. With every single analysis about every single detail, this film truly tries to send a message in a very unique way. It mixes its ideas in a way for the viewer to get it, or to make it think of its story, to wonder who is right or wrong, who truly is stuck in the rules of the society or not, or what exactly a certain moment means for the bigger theme. The narrative structure of the film presents its characters perfectly when it comes to this thing. It presents their story in a certain way, but it also helps the others' stories, enhancing each theme in a way to understand that the theme of the film, the theme of freedom, of being stuck in a cage of rules and wanting to escape, while it means something to others, is as much as important, if not more, for others, even though they are not the main characters. Besides, the ending of the film is one that explores the theme of freedom and the theme of justice quite well in a classic way. You know, the truth being revealed in the end. Being taken as a scapegoat, Johnny and his group, for all the chaos created by others, just because he is a motorcyclist, is a message that might present the viewer this misconception that every biker out there is a bad guy. And it fits Johnny characters so well somehow, being this nice, quiet, misunderstood guy of the group that is taken at fault for everything. And as I said, maybe Johnny and his boys are to blame for some things, and Chino's boys are more at fault than Johnny's boys, but the outcome, it is the townsfolk's fault. Trying to do justice with your own hands, it never ends well. Benedek is presenting the outcome of the film so well. Johnny was ready to face the consequences, he apparently did it before. If it was not for Katie and his father, the outcome would have been totally different. So yes, in this case, the truth was revealed and was proven that Johnny was not at blame. Somehow, with all the context presented, the ending enhances those themes of freedom and rebellion just for the viewer to understand Johnny's characters even further, realizing what he said earlier regarding his dislike for cops and how he sees the society around him. That line, "What are you rebelling against?" gets a new sense at the end of the film. Benedek made this film in an amazing way. Even though the film ends in a sad context, but necessary in order to send its message, the cinematography of the film is the main factor that moves the story in the required way Benedek wanted. The film is a perfect example of the American cinema of the 1950s. It is filmed in many shots that present the story in a very dynamic way specific to those years. The editing is made in such a way to truly present the main important reactions of the characters when it truly is important. to make the viewer realize what a character might think or what might feel in a certain moment, and the soundtrack, it drives the dynamicity of the film in such a way that does not bore the viewer at all. The moments of conflict are made extremely well and credible. In a way, the viewer feels the moment itself, like it is right there rather than to see it. From time to time, I felt that some shots are made in such a way to remind of theater, or to give this sensation of, yeah, this film might work as a play anytime. There are not many shots in such a way. Probably the most recognizable is the one in which Johnny is seeing Katie for the first time, outside of the cafe. But this little joyful play of Benedek with the perspective made me think a bit about Marlon Brando's career in the theater world. The impact this film had on many generations is not only due to the way it is filmed, or because it is a film with Marlon Brando, or because of how Brando portrayed the character or the story. It is everything combined. The film was made in a time when a new cultural wave and a new mentality in the generations after the war was just starting to change the world and the mentality of so many young people. Of course, Brando's popularity helped quite a lot with the ascension of this film to the rank as one of the most influential films of the 1950s, and I'm saying this because, apparently, many pop culture icons of the time like James Dean and Elvis Presley got something from Brando's performance and adapted it in their attitude and lifestyles. I mean, James Dean got a Triumph TR5 trophy just because apparently he wanted to mimic Brando's motorcycle from this movie. Elvis Presley, apparently, got inspired for his own film Jailhouse Rock by Brando's looks. And Brando's style of wearing sideburns was a reason for James and Elvis to wear sideburns also. Those are the stories out there, and I can truly see the similarities now that I pay close attention to them. The rock and roll culture started to evolve back then in the 1950s, and the concept of freedom, of rebels and misfits and motorcycles helped a lot with this new cultural wave. Thanks to its influence, The Wild One is considered the original outlaw biker film. Many of such movies were made, and the concept of biker movies evolved a lot in the later years, with movies like Easy Rider, Hell's Angels on Wheels, and many others, even to this day. The Wild One was an influence when it comes to how the concept of a motorcycle club is seen by the people, or influenced many bikers to create clubs and have their own band of biker friends. I remember, even if this is a reference for the ones who know, that in the film The Bike Riders from 2023, Tom Hardy's character Johnny Davis created a motorcycle club after watching Marlon Brando in The Wild One. I know that this is a reference in a movie, but I like to see this film's influence in history, in the motorcycle subculture and in cinema being perfectly defined. There are so many things when it comes to this movie that are like an unbelievable thing if you think about it. But reading about them, seeing the film and understanding it now after over 70 years is making you, as a modern viewer, to appreciate this film for what it was and what it represents in the history of cinema. The Wild One is not a very long film, but it is full of story and action and dynamic-like moments that capture your interest. Depending on the reason, you might want to watch this film, either because you are a fan of motorcycles or a fan of Marlon Brando, or you just want to see a very good classic film. The Wild One might be one choice for your movie night. Having a passion for motorcycles and liking a good classic Hollywood film, I felt that this movie might be something interesting. And it was. This film is complicated, and every single detail presented says something. It tells the same theme in many ways and in a way to understand all the stories and to send a single message to the viewer. It presents concepts of freedom, concepts of rebellion. It presents an interesting take towards society. This film is a bold one, and looking at it through the eyes of today, yeah, I do not think this film can be made today, or if it is made, it would not be made like that. I like this movie. It has a certain aura that makes you remember it. It has an aura that makes a cinema lover know about it thanks to the posters and the photographs, and if that cinema lover watches it, it will remember it. Movies with this type of aura are rare today. The film might become a favorite of mine? Probably. I do not think it will be in the top 5, but definitely it is in the top 10. The Wild One is and will be a one-of-a-kind movie thanks to its style, the times it was made, and its cultural influence. So, in my books, yes, it is a movie I can recommend to someone who might want to start his journey in the world of cinema. It's one of those movies, an instant classic through and through.